Hey everybody, GlueCon here again as we start the next episode. We continue on in Chapter 2 and find out how Azeroth was formed and became the Azeroth that we know. Okay, continuing on, we're going to talk about the coming of the old gods. That doesn't sound good. The elemental lords reveled amid the primordial bedlam until a group of old gods plummeted down from the great dark. They slammed into Azeroth's surface, embedding themselves in different locations across the world. These old gods towered over the land, mountains of flesh, pockmarked with hundreds of gnashing maws and black, unfeeling eyes. A miasma of despair soon enveloped everything that lay in their writhing shadows. Like gargantuan, cancerous pustules, the old gods spread their corruptive influence across the landscape. The lands around them seethed and withered, turning black and lifeless for leagues upon leagues. All the while, the tendrils of the old gods wormed into the world's crust, slithering deeper and deeper toward the defenseless heart of Azeroth. Organic matter seeped from the old gods' blighted forms, giving rise to two distinct races. The first were the cunning and intelligent Enraki, also known as the Faceless Ones. The second were the Akir, insectoids of incredible resilience and strength. As the physical manifestations of the old gods' will, both of these races would serve their masters with fanatical loyalty. Through their new servants, the old gods expanded the borders of their remote dominions. The Enraki acted as ruthless taskmasters, employing the Akir as laborers to erect towering citadels and temple cities around their masters' colossal bulks. The greatest of these bastions was built around Isharj, the most powerful and wicked of the old gods. This burgeoning civilization was located near the center of Azeroth's largest continent. Isharj's holdings, along with the other old god domains, would soon spread across the world and become known as the Black Empire. The rise of the Black Empire did not go unnoticed by the elementals. Seeing the old gods as a challenge to their dominion, the elemental lords moved to excise the entities from their world. For the first time in Azeroth's history, the world's native spirits worked in unison against a common enemy. Alakir's tempests joined with Ragnaros' fiery servants, creating monstrous cyclones of flame. These blistering firestorms raged over the world, reducing the Black Empire's citadels to ash. Elsewhere, Therazane raised jagged rock walls to corral her enemies and shatter their temple cities. Neptulon and his tidal minions then swept in, crushing the Enraki and the Akir between unyielding stone and the fury of the seas. Yet for all their fervor, the elementals could not topple the Black Empire. No matter how many Enraki and Akir died, more and more would spawn from the old gods' putrid forms like larvae from a hive. The Enraki and the Akir engulfed the land like an unstoppable pestilence, shattering the elementals' forms. In the end, the old gods enslaved the elementals and their lords. Without the native spirits to counter the Enraki and the Akir, the borders of the Black Empire crept over much of the desiccated world. Perpetual twilight descended upon Azeroth, and the world spiraled into an abyss of suffering and death. This is cool. A lot of this I did not know. So I'm learning it right here in front of you guys. So I think what's cool is, or what's interesting to me is the old gods, the evil, that was the first. Azeroth was, other than, sure, the primal elemental elements like we talked about before, but that's the case of every world. They all were elemental at first, and ours, Azeroth may have been particularly chaotic when it comes to that, but the fact that the old gods got there, they recognized it, and they started their path down. We also see that means really, other than the elementals, which, while I guess that's technically a race, I have a hard time counting them like a regular race. We do see some of the Enraki or Faceless ones. That kind of feels vaguely familiar, especially the Faceless ones. I don't know, maybe there's some old content that I'll go through when we get to the Let's Plays. As far as Encourage and stuff like that. but that doesn't. But the Akir, I feel like that's we're talking about the people in Silithus right now, um, and some Northrend and stuff like that. Basically, those insect races, which we have seen since the beginning, since the end of the first kind of couple years of Classic. So I think that's pretty neat. I don't know who Isharj is, but now we have a name for the most powerful of the old gods, which we also had a name for the most powerful of the Titans. Slipping my mind right now, but we did talk about that pantheon, and we did have kind of like a main one. So it's interesting that we have kind of a main evil pantheon guy now. We also see the Black Empire. That's going... definitely goes all the way through Pandaria. Actually, I'm trying to think. I think BFA is still doing Black Empire. So all of this is still something that the World of Warcraft is dealing with constantly. I also think it's neat that you have the elementals joining to fight, but they lose. And you end up with kind of a really dark time where all is lost and things are bad as we go into the next part of chapter 2, because we know that's going to turn around. Thanks for listening. I hope this was informative, or maybe you knew more of this stuff than I did, but it was cool for me. Everybody have a good life until I see you next time. See ya.